What's happening, everyone? So, back again with some trades today. I had my trade recap. It's going to go over my short positions today on SUPV, but at the moment, I want to discuss my swing trade in PLTR. Now, I bought shares in PLTR on Tuesday. So, Tuesday, it was basically, it's basically been in this big flush move for the past, basically ever since it had this big run up to 45. It's basically been in a downward trend, right? So it's moved from 45 down to 30, back up to 38, then all the way down now to the 25 level. So in this, the idea here is that this stock is worth much more than what it's valued at currently, but because it was so overbought after the IPO and after the kind of run up, well, I shouldn't say the IPO, but after the run up in the last few months, because it is a relatively new stock trading, new public company, but they've kind of had these consistent agreements and I shouldn't say murder, but agreements. They're signing very, very good partnerships and agreements with, like, government institutions, and they are a technology company. So one of the biggest things to understand about a stock like PLTR is that it's kind of one of those stocks where it's a long-term play, and if you go look at like ARK Invest and all these other a lot of these big investment firms, they're telling you how, like, PLTR is basically like what they would call a deep value stock, meaning that its value is in its technology. It's in its proprietary ideas, which are its technology essentially. What it's doing, what it owns, is something that no other company has the same competitive advantage in that field. And so what that means is that they will control a lot of the market share, right? And so as you can see, they had some a little bit of a rocky earnings report in which they had some bad financials. But one thing to understand about that is that it wasn't that terrible when you understand that it's a new company, and the growth technology, it's like Tesla, right? Tesla's not worth what it's trading at on the stock market, but because of the technology that it has, the ability that it has to basically outdo its competitors in the space that it's in, allows it to be valued a lot more than a company that was in a more competitive space. So if you look at maybe a company like David's Tea or something, right? Like David's Tea, I mean, it's the company is not that amazing. It's a decent company, but it's not, it's nothing great. But if you value it based on where it is in the competitive space, there's how many other companies that produce the same product, right? There's thousands of other companies that produce the same type of not only product, but it's basically something you can buy from other places and get the exact same quality. It's not something that, sure, they have their own kind of brands and their own, thing, and maybe people are, kind of into that, like a Starbucks or something like that. But even like Starbucks doesn't control the market share, right? Because they have to compete with Tim Hortons, they have to compete with Dunkin' Donuts, they have to compete with Coffee Time or Coffee Culture, or these thousands of other coffee houses around, in the neighborhood. So because you don't have this, I'm going to try to go to the company website so I can show you their kind of their plans and kind of their overall what they do and what they're kind of so It says power real-time decisions. Institutions have the data they need to make the best decisions for safety, stability, and prosperity, but too often their data is fragmented and locked in silos. The people on the front lines of our most important problems don't have the information they need when they need it most. At Palantir, we build software that lets organizations integrate their data, their decisions, and their operations into one platform, one software. Our software empowers entire organizations to answer complex questions quickly by bringing the right data to the people who need it the most. So, privacy protection is one of their biggest things, kind of offering this kind of blockchain, this kind of data collection and kind of IT solution, proprietary solutions, allow them to kind of get into government institutions, counter-terrorist organizations. We're starting to talk about like CIA, intelligence organizations. We're starting to talk about things like technology companies that want to protect their new innovations. So Tesla, Palantir started trading above high volume. So Palantir is getting a downward pressure again. So you're starting to see downward pressure again, right? So I'm down on my shares right now, but I'm not worried at all. I'm actually kind of happy. Well, I shouldn't say happy, but I'm happy for the fact that I can buy more shares at a better price, and I can average my average down, because I value the company being worth double what it's valued at right now, and that means that I believe, and I have the ability to hold for the next few years. Like, I have money that that I'm not necessarily required to put into my bills or my rent, and this is the thing about when you're talking about value investing, is you need to be investing with money that you obviously have, that can sit in for a long time, because these kind of more speculative, and I wouldn't even say Palantir is a speculative investment, but it certainly is not 1,000% proven. I mean, they are showing lots of potential, and they are one of those newer companies that I think is going to be revolutionary towards the IT space. But at the moment, they're in their kind of infant stages, and this means that you have the potential to get in to these companies with very, very cheap stock price, but also the ability to kind of see the growth of this company through the future, because we're going to see such a exponential kind of growth in the ability for them to kind of consistently come through with partnerships and consistently deliver on their IT platform that they have kind of solidified, right? So Palantir was founded on the conviction that it's essential to preserve fundamental principles of privacy and civil liberties while using data. From our roots in counterterrorism to our current work spanning the public, private, and non-private sectors, we've delivered software that incorporates principles of privacy by design. Right? So and nowadays everybody kind of is interested in partnerships, or I shouldn't say partnership, and is interested in protecting their privacy, because with all of the data breaches and kind of hacking that comes with this new age of technology that we live in, we're seeing kind of this shift towards a more AI-driven world, which means that you're going to have to rely more on these fundamental protectors of your data, which means you need secured systems, secured software providers, which can protect your data while also ensuring that your data meets with the same AI data processing applications or requirements that the space requires. So like meaning that you want to make sure that not only are your softwares compatible with these privacy or data collection services, you want to be able to have partnerships with these companies that allow you to have not only efficient data but also protected data. And this is one of the big things, right? It's something that you'll see companies again and again and again looking to partner with Palantir or companies like Palantir in order to get this protection of their data, but also this kind of new AI technology in order to better facilitate their own businesses and basically better organize and better structure their businesses to kind of venture into this new world of information, this new IT world of, where technological revolution is going to kind of revolutionize the way in which we think as businesses, and the way that we kind of interact as businesses is going to become a lot more online based, a lot more interactive rather than face to face, especially with the current situation. This is what's gonna send stocks like Palantir to kind of new highs because of this, and the fact that they're constantly getting new partnerships with companies like Rio Tinto, BP, British Petroleum, IBM. So these are huge partnerships, right? And not only that, but because of their where they come from and their roots in counterterrorism, and the fact that they work with a lot of government agencies, they also have the backing of things like the FBI and the CIA and the NSA, and all of these big intelligence agencies need to rely on this kind of software. So where do you think they're going to be investing their money, right? So the big thing is their integrated software solutions. So like that's one of the things that they kind of have built their systems on, and built their kind of reputation on, is this mission to help intelligence agencies make better use of their data securely and responsibly. Today, governments around the world use Palantir Gotham and Palantir Foundry to understand and defend against evolving threats to national security, from cyber attacks to disinformation to insurgencies. So it says, like, you can build their secure foundation. Their software allows intelligence agencies to unify their fractured data landscape. It can integrate data of any type, size, source, or format while preserving the integrity and classification of the systems. Granular access controls govern how users can interact with data according to role, classification, or purpose. Palantir can also integrate streaming data such as video feeds in real time and federate searches to external sources. Once integrated, Palantir provides tools to refine high-noise, high-volume datasets and infrastructure to deploy, train, evaluate, and improve artificial intelligence and machine learning by augmenting human judgment and expertise with technology that makes massive-scale data manageable and useful. Palantir lets analysts spend less time manipulating data and more time understanding and engaging with it. So it basically it makes analyst jobs easier, because it organizes all of the data that they're collecting, and it gives it to them in one easy to understand tidbit, instead of being kind of spaced out under 100 different searches, or in 3 or 4 different databases, which you need to access through different passwords or different logins. It's basically all one secured system that gives you a one-click access, and that's kind of like their whole one-stop. It's a one-stop shop for collaborative data analysis, empowering intelligence officers with the data they need when they need it. Palantir gives everyone from analysts to executives the tools they need to make decisions based on a compounding knowledge asset. Non-technical users don't need to learn specialized query languages to discover and analyze data. Data science toolkits let technical users make full use of their agency's data foundation. So this is, it's revolutionary, right? It's what I think it's one of those things that it's so crucial for this kind of business. It's so, or for this kind of age we live in, right? For this kind of society, it's so crucial to understand where we're going in the future, to understand like kind of where the growth is going to go, and where these businesses are going to be kind of looking towards protecting their data, who they're going to trust. And if the government agencies are trusting Palantir, then, and obviously businesses like IBM, BP, Rio Tinto, which I'm not a big fan of, but hey, they're a pretty big company and they're Canadian, so it is what it is, right? But I believe that for deep value investing, and obviously if you look at ARK Investment, they, on the same day that I was buying, they were buying shares as well. And I'm pretty sure I got a better fill price than they did because I was. Oh, and look at that, Palantir's already going back up. But but I waited till the end of the day, right? Like I was basically watching this thing the entire day. I saw it hit like 28, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna get in there. And then it kind of started to bounce around, but then it came all the way back down, and I was like, okay, you know what? It's starting to look like maybe this is going to be the low for kind of this move that it made lower, because it had been going down for the past like week, right? So ever since kind of this retracement at the end of January, it's kind of been on a downward trend, right? So I'm thinking, okay, if we have kind of a reversal here, I want to get in kind of at the bottom. So that's why I was buying towards the end of the day, hoping that it would bounce. And the funny thing is it did. It did what I thought it would, but then it came back against me, right? Because the next day it bounced and it was actually up. I was up about $50 at that point, and I could have sold. But because I'm holding this for a long-term investment, I'm not looking to sell at, $50 win. I want a few $100 win, if not $1,000 win, right? I'm looking at it as a long-term investment because I see it valued at a lot higher than where it is. And it's not necessarily because of their financials, and that's one of the reasons why, like, that earnings report that came out last week or earlier this week sent the stock price down. But at the same time, when you look at the actual report, it wasn't terrible. Like the earnings itself were bad. The report was bad, but it wasn't to the point where it wasn't to the point where you wanted to head for the hills and just leave the company in the dust, right? And this is funny thing, right? Is even this guy says, like, the fact that this new earnings revenue sent the analysts to basically put their targets so low, down to 1783, right? So if it goes down to there, we'll all be adding more shares. But in total, the actual earnings revenues and everything, so that it came out, yeah, it was lower than expected. But let's kind of look at what this meant, because when it comes to the year to data metrics, the Palantir recorded performance in the market was 35%, having the revenue showcase 90% on a quarterly basis with the same period before. At this time of writing, the total value of the market is $57.68 billion, as it employs total of 2,464 workers. So it's another thing, is like, it's not like this is a tiny company, right? Like it's got almost 2,500 workers and has a company, and the total market value of the company is set at $57 billion, right? So just keep that in consideration if you're like panicking, thinking this thing is going to go to zero or something. So it kind of just goes over the different. I'm not sure if they actually discussed the actual earnings report here. I was hoping to get discussion of the earnings report. And the other thing too, today, why everybody thought they were going to have such a big decline is because there's the basically the allowance for those insiders and those that own company shares to begin selling. So basically there's a lockout period. Once the company goes public, those insiders within the company that own shares have like a certain amount, I think it's 60 days, 90 days, whatever, in which they cannot sell their shares. So that period ends today. So that's why everybody was predicting this huge sell-off, right? So nearly all shares are now unlocked for trading, the result of an unusual restricted placed on stockholders in the data software company when it went public. Such lockups are common after initial public offerings, but less for companies that list their shares directly on the exchange, as Palantir did on the New York Stock Exchange in September. Two long-term investors said in news that they will hold, but at least one other billionaire, George Soros, has publicly signaled his plans to exit. Palantir has amassed a long list of shareholders in the nearly 2 decades since it was founded, but starting this September, only a fifth of their shares could be traded. On Thursday, almost all stockholders got the option to sell as much as they'd like for the first time. The expiration of a lockup is a volatile time for any company, but could be especially so for Palantir, which was privately held for an exceptionally long time and which courts a great deal of controversy. Its co-founder and chairman is Peter Thiel, the venture capitalist who backed Donald Trump's successful bid for the U.S. presidency and became a pariah in Silicon Valley. So this is the thing you got to understand, is that today and this week you might see a big sell-off because of this. But what you got to also understand is this can also be a really good thing for long-term investors. And this is the reason. If you were somebody that was holding this stock, okay, so you've been holding this stock for the past, I don't know, say you were an insider in the company that got shares when it went public. So you've been holding since like last year, late last year. Okay. And you haven't been able to share. You're like, oh, you saw it go up to $45, and you're like, man, I wish I could have sold at 45. Now it's trading at 25. Now my shares are public. Do I want to liquidate my shares? If you're working for a company like Palantir, you're probably not broke. You're probably not sitting there struggling for cash. Plus, you probably understand that, because you're working for the company is probably doing pretty good. So you're probably not going to be sitting there like, hey, I'm going to dump all my shares. As it said down here, like George Soros, two long-term investors. One says they're going to hold, and the other, George Soros, says they're going to sell. Well, just because he says he's going to sell, it doesn't mean he's going to buy the dip, right? It just means he's going to sell once he gets the chance to, because he's basically been holding. He's probably been holding for the last 5 years or something, because he probably got shares when it was holding private, because he was a big hedge fund manager. So he probably was able to get shares from the company, issued directly from the company, that he then has been holding for the last 10 years. So for him to be able to sell them, it's kind of like, well, I've been holding for 10 years. I probably got shares at like $2 or something. So he's probably up massively on his shares, right? Which is one of the reasons why it's all relative, right? But at the end of the day, understand that we might see a huge decline from this initial lockout period ending and all of these insiders selling. But when it starts to hold, when it finds its bottom, whether it's 25, 24, 23, whether it's 1783 like the one analyst thought, whatever its bottom is, it's going to bottom, and then it's going to reverse, and it's going to probably go back up to $40. I don't know this. This is just my opinion. This is not trading advice. This is not telling you to go out and buy PLTR. But what I'm saying is that more than likely, this company is going to be successful. And more than likely, because of the way the world is going, this company is going to be not only successful, but is going to be a company that people really, really want to get into. And not just people, businesses also want to get involved with, right? Because they want to protect their data. And this is what I meant before when I was saying it wasn't that bad, because if you look, Palantir reported fourth quarter 2020 earnings that beat analyst estimates on revenue, but said it lost 8 cents per share. So they actually beat the revenue expectations, right? Like they actually made more money in revenue, which means the company made money that wasn't just they weren't just they had expenses and they had all that, but they actually made a lot of money too, and they beat what the analysts thought. But the analysts kind of thought that they would only lose like I think 2 cents per share or something like that, but they ended up losing 8 cents per share. So this is an early company. Like I said, even to lose 8 cents is not terrible, right? A lot of the cannabis companies lose way more than that. I think Tilray just reported its earnings today, and they were way below 8 cents a share. So and it's trading at $33 a share. So just take that into consideration, right? That just because you have these panic reports and everybody panics on the earnings, but when you really look at the numbers, they're not that bad, and analysts typically have high expectations, or they are kind of wrong a lot of times. So a lot of times you have to kind of do your own research, which is why you can't just blindly follow analysts or blindly follow call signals or buy signals or whatever. You kind of need to have your own plays, right? Like if you're a panic buyer and you were following ARK Investments on Tuesday or whatever when they were buying, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get in, and you got in at the high of like 29 or close to $30 that it was, instead of me who got in the 27s, right? Because I waited to the end of the day, and because I was waiting to see if it bounced. I want to get the low. I don't want to get in, and obviously it has fallen lower. But like I said, I couldn't have predicted that, right? Like it looked like it had already been down for almost 2 weeks straight downwards. I thought, hey, maybe we're in this, and we are going to see it reverse. It's just a matter of when, and I'm waiting for the bottom now. And whenever I see, believe that it's there again, I will be loading up again. And that will just allow me to hold until it goes back above my 27 entry that I had from Tuesday, and basically back up to my price target, which I see is over $40. Now, this is kind of the problem, is that when will that hit? Will it be in the next 6 months? Who knows? Will it be in the next 2 years? Who knows? But I I can bet that, it'll happen sooner than later. The problem becomes is that you never know. So you can only do as much as put your money and get the best entry, as you can, and kind of get yourself in a position in which you're happy to hold in a downward move, or you're okay with it because you see that it's worth more than where you got in before. Whereas a lot of early investors, a lot of beginner traders would have maybe got in with ARK on Tuesday, and then after it tanked on yesterday, and it's down to 25, they're like, oh my god, and then it tanks to 24, and then they sell at 24.50, right? So like, like today, like, these guys, they got in when I did, or they got in on this day when ARK got in, because ARK's buying, okay, I'm gonna buy it at 20, I'm gonna buy at 29, or at 20, $29. So they're in at $29. Oh, it goes against them. Then it comes back to almost to their entry. They're like, yes, we're gonna make money, and then all of a sudden it goes against them again, and they're like, oh my god, it's going against me, and then it goes against them again, and it goes down to 24.50, and then on this day it opens, they're watching it, they're hesitant, they're like, okay, if this thing comes back up, I'm happy, if not, I'm gonna get out. I can't hold this. Goes against them, they get out. They sell here at 24.50, they get out, right? They take a loss. In 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I bet you this thing's probably going to be back up over 30. So the problem is that you have to have the right mindset. You have to know that if you're going to get into a stock, you have to have a good entry. If you're in at a good entry and it still goes against you, you have to have the faith to be able to hold, or to add to that position, to lower your cost average, to then be in a better position, and or sell your shares and add again. If some people have strict stop losses where they're like, all right, if it goes against 5%, I'm out no matter what. I'll wait till it finds the bottom, and then you get in, and that's fine. And another thing, I could have sold here, been up $50, and then waited till it and then bought here at 24.50 and been in at a much lower price and been happy. But like I said, I bought for a long-term investment, and I'm not looking to trade cents or pennies on this thing. I'm looking to trade dollars and tens of $10 to $20 I'm looking for in return, not just $1 or $2. So it's not a day trade, it's a long-term, or at least a swing trade, but I would say even like a more of a long-term swing trade, because I'm looking to hold this thing at least for the next month. But it might be less if it goes back up to 40 in the next by next Monday or whatever. Then yeah, I'll get out probably, but we'll see. Sorry if this video is going a little long too. Sometimes I kind of ramble a little bit, and I try not to, but I wanted to kind of go over all of the things I was thinking when I got into this, and not just kind of, I'm not just following ARK, or I'm not just following, this guy on YouTube or this guy on YouTube that says buy PLTR, it's going to go up. But, I've looked into the company, and I've said, hey, especially the idea, just to me, the idea. And the thing is that you can't really look into the financials a ton, because they're not going to tell you, they're not going to be anything insane, right? Obviously showing that the company is valued at $65 billion is huge, right? Because that's just have that valuation just shows that people believe this stock is worth a lot, and this company is worth a lot. So you can see here, it's like, the company said average revenue per customer for 2020 was $7.9 million, up 41% from 2019. So their average customer is paying 41% increased in revenue from 2019. And who are those clients? We're talking about people like IBM, people like Rio Tinto, people like BP, these consistent customers that are going to come back again. Intelligence agencies, CIA, FBI, all of their offshoots, all of those interesting companies that are looking to get data protection. Its top 20 customers generate $33.2 million on average in 2020, up 34% year over year. So this is consistency. And it's not just consistency, it's consistent growth, right? In the fourth quarter, Palantir said it closed 21 deals worth at least $5 million in total contract value, including 12 worth at least $10 million. New contracts in Q4 include those with the U.S. Army, U.S. Food and Drug Administration, and Procter & Gamble. So I think that PG&E, I think that's Procter & Gamble. I'm not 100% sure, but PG&E, whatever that is. Just think about that. The U.S. Army, U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Bam! Those are two of the biggest organizations in the U.S. that not only facilitate to the entire military forces, but also to the entire medical system in the U.S. Palantir said it expects to earn $4 billion in revenue in 2025. In 2021, Palantir cited base revenue growth of more than 30%. It expects revenue growth of 45% in the first quarter of the year, with a midpoint of 332 million. That's higher than Refinitiv analysts estimate of about 309 million in revenue for the first quarter. So, they're expecting to have exponential growth by 2025, to the point where they're literally quadrupling their, well, I would say even more, like 5 or 6 times their current, no, even more than that, their current revenues. So that's what I'm talking about when I say exponential growth. And that's only a few years away. Like 2025, like you think that it's amazing, it's not that long away. And it will come sooner than later. So this is, it's just the CEO and the kind of the people, the investors and these, I don't know who this guy is, Alex Karp, CEO Alex Karp emphasized the company's long-term prospects. So the CEO, I thought it was that Theo guy. I don't know. But anyway, it's basically this Karp guy and Theo that are the major, or the CEOs. Like I said, I don't know a ton about the actual management. I probably should look more into that. But with me, it's more just the idea of the technology and the company, right? This is something that I don't believe you'll see any other company have the ability to partner with companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft. It said, like, employees at these companies have urged the company to step away from deals with agencies and military divisions, including U.S. Immigration, Customs, and the Army. Palantir, by contrast, has built its business largely on lucrative government deals for its data analytics software, including with ICE, which is the immigration. But the company has also said it would generally not do business with customers or governments whose positions or actions will consider inconsistent with our mission to support Western liberal democracy and strategic allies. So it just shows you that, like, they're going to be big with all of the biggest kind of conservative, not only conservative because obviously their connection with Trump and all of that, and their CEO or whatever, but this is going to give them a huge kind of position and advantage because companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft don't want to do business with these guys. Whereas Palantir is fine doing business with them. And we're talking about the biggest contractors in the United States, right? The government, basically. So when you start working for the government, you start making a lot of money. And this is one of the big things. It's not like some random company that's just like, oh yeah, we got data software. Come, it's not like ExpressVPN or something like that. And I'm not trying to diss them because it's a really good company for what they offer, and but what I'm saying is that it's not some internet company that's random, that nobody really understands or nobody really has like an idea of the company, because it's involved directly with the government. So it literally has not only consistent partnerships and consistent support, but it's also a company that is relied upon by these businesses for everything. That, once they're a client, they become their data analytic processors. So these are required aspects of the company. They become almost one with the companies that they work for, which allows them to be consistent customers for the foreseeable future. And like it says, and the company also serves commercial customers, which makes up less than half of the business. So not only are they partnering with all these guys, but they're also, that's only half their business. The other half is with commercial clients who are gonna flock to this business to protect their data. And if Amazon, Google, or Microsoft can't do it, or once they realize that Palantir, because they're working with the government agencies that are putting billions of dollars into them and their technology is superior, they will end up taking over the market share, right? And plus, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft are in so many different fields. They're not focused really on data analytics or data protection. That's part of their business, but it's not the focus of their business, which is what Palantir's focus is. And that's the difference, right? Is that you're talking about somebody that, a guy that's their hobby is to data protect, which is Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and somebody who their life is to protect you, and that's Palantir, right? So that's the difference between the companies, and why you're seeing such a demand for their technology and for their products, because they are so revolutionary and so higher up in terms of quality than any of their competitors. So Palantir reported its first earnings release that 56% of its revenue in Q3 came from its government segment, which has grown at a faster clip than its commercial business, right? So obviously, the government segment is growing faster because of their partnerships with the government and intelligence agencies, obviously, and with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and U.S. Food and Drug Administration and the U.S. Army. Obviously, those are massive contracts, right? So Palantir said its segment generated 190 million in revenue in fourth quarter, up 85% year over year. Its commercial segment brought in 132 million, up 4% year over year. So it just shows you that like they're growing on both sides. Obviously, their government side is growing a lot faster, but think about where the money is. The money's in the government segment. So obviously, if that's growing, exponentially, almost 100% a year, think about where this will be in 2025. Like they said, will it be at 5 billion? We'll do the estimations, right? If they have consistent growth and if they continue with these same, year over year increases, then very well could be looking at a $5 billion revenue increase by 2025. Palantir did not provide an updated customer count this time or in its first release in November. After disclosing its prospectus that it had 125 customers in the first half of the year, but it said its customer concentration had declined, with 61% of revenue through Q3 coming from its top 20 customers instead of 68% over the same period in 2019. So that's not as great, but you also got to realize that think about it like this, when you have struggling businesses, what are they gonna do, right? They have to cut costs. So if you have Palantir, who obviously is 100% the best company at what they do, but they're obviously charging the rate to be the best. So that means that a lot of companies, especially during COVID, that are struggling, that are maybe going under, are gonna have to cut some of their costs. They're gonna have to look for ways to save money. Maybe if they go with a sub, kind of a cheaper version of Palantir, in order to save money, Palantir will lose those customers and they will lose money because obviously everybody's struggling. A lot of these smaller businesses are losing, a lot of money, which means they're going to be looking to cut costs, which is what they're doing, which is why, why I see that as being, lower than what it was in 2019. It doesn't mean that their revenues are lower. It just means that their revenues are coming from a smaller group of clienteles, of customers, which obviously means that those customers are paying more. So that's a good thing. And so, and the fact that these are all government, businesses, or operations, or organizations, it means that they're consistent and they have obviously lots of money. So there's lots of future growth for Palantir in that sense. So like I said, I'm going to be looking at this probably for the next week, looking at it for a dip buy, hoping maybe we get down below 25 now, maybe 23, even 22. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to go below 20, but if it goes to 20, I'll be buying. But I don't think it's going to go below 20. We'll see what happens. But overall, right now, I'm kind of just, and if it just bounces back up and goes to 40, well then I'm still in with my profits from Tuesday, and maybe I'll add some shares as it goes up and breaks that level. But that's kind of the position I'm in right now. So I'm just waiting, holding the swing trade, gonna be loading up on shares, in the lower 20s if it goes there, or if it goes back up towards my price and holds around the $27, I'll probably add there as well. I'll probably load up there for the move higher. So let's see what happens. Let's see where we find the bottom. As he says, right now, you kind of have this 24.50 as your bottom, and that's kind of, basically the past month. That's the lowest it's traded. So if it breaks that, we could be looking at a big move lower, but let's see. Like I said, just watching, just waiting and watching, and gonna load up and hold this thing for the next month or so. Yeah, that's my plans. So let me know what you guys think about PLTR, guys, below. Let me know what you guys think of this business. I was gonna go over their kind of investor relations report here, but it's taking forever to load, and it's not really that great. So I'm gonna skip over it. If you want to go over it, you can go over it here. It looks like it's loading a little better, but you guys can go over it. It basically just talks about all the things that I just said. Talks about kind of, how they plan to build on their client base and kind of further their data protection services by building on AI and blockchain technology through their partnerships with some of the, you know, biggest technology companies and government agencies. So, you know, it's one of those things, man. I don't know what else to say, because it's really one of those things where it's a play that's more about the deep value that it has as a technology and as a proprietary AI software, rather than as a company. You know what I mean? It's not the company. It's not necessarily the value of the company today that you're looking to buy into. It's the value of the company in 2025, right? When it's making $5 billion. Yeah, it's making $400 billion or $300 million this year. But as I said, this is, you know, after this is an infant company, and it's not huge yet. You know, it's not to the point where they're starting to blow up, right? They're kind of at that stage where they had a little bit of a blow up, because everybody's like, oh, look at this technology, look at like how necessary they are, how beneficial they will be towards not only intelligence agencies but also businesses, just regular, you know, customers, even regular consumers, even every person that wants to protect their data can, you know, eventually probably will use Palantir software once it's made, you know, readily accessible. But obviously that's going to be a long time down the road, and right now they're just dealing with massive government organizations and, you know, the U.S. military and IBM and BP and Rio Tinto, and, you know, so I see further partnerships coming down the road, because like I said, obviously people need to protect their data, businesses, governments, everybody. So even, you know, you might see like Britain and in countries around the world looking towards Palantir for the same kind of data protection that they are giving to the U.S. military and to the intelligence agencies in the U.S. I see that being the future. So if that is the future, then it's even more exponential growth than what they're projecting. So just food for thought. Anyway, that's going to be that for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think about PLTR below, and hopefully you guys have a great day. Thank you.